"You're my employee, not my mother," my daughter said, confiscating my salary. Secretly, I gave my only sandwich to the beggar at the door. He grabbed my wrist, ripped off his wig, and revealed himself as a multimillionaire. He looked at me, said 3 words. "That changed everything. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from, so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Rosalind, and at 65 years old, I have become a ghost in my own life." The alarm clock beside my narrow bed buzzes at 5:30 every morning, just as it has for the past 5 years. Not because I said it that way, but because that's when Fallon expects breakfast to be ready. I roll out of the small guest bed in what used to be called the servants' quarters back when this house had actual servants, not just desperate mothers. The hardwood floors are cold against my bare feet as I shuffle to the tiny attached bathroom. The mirror reflects a woman I barely recognize anymore. My gray hair, once thick and styled weekly at Martha's salon downtown, now hangs limp and pulled back in a practical ponytail. The lines around my eyes have deepened, but it's not age that carved them there. It's the weight of swallowing words, of biting my tongue, of shrinking smaller each day until I've nearly disappeared entirely. I dress in the same uniform I wear every day, a faded blue cotton dress that's comfortable for cleaning, and the worn apron that Thomas gave me as a joke on our 20th anniversary. "For the best cook in Connecticut," he'd written on the card. Back then, I'd laughed and swatted him with it. Now it feels more like a chain than a gift. The mansion is silent as I make my way downstairs, my slippers whispering against the marble floors that I'll spend the next hour polishing to Fallon's standards. The kitchen is enormous, all granite countertops and stainless steel appliances that cost more than most people make in a year. I know because I remember when Fallon picked them out, charging everything to the credit card that draws from my Social Security and the life insurance money Thomas left behind. I start the coffee first. Fallon likes it strong, with exactly 2 tablespoons of cream and 1 packet of that expensive sweetener she orders online. While it brews, I begin preparing her breakfast. 2 eggs over easy, the whites firm but not rubbery. 3 strips of bacon cooked until just crispy, and 1 slice of whole grain toast with butter spread evenly to the corners. Everything has to be perfect. I learned that the hard way during my first week here, when she returned the entire plate because the eggs were too runny. I had to remake breakfast while she stood behind me, sighing dramatically about how some people just don't pay attention to details. As I crack the eggs into the heated pan, I catch my reflection in the kitchen window. The woman staring back at me looks tired, defeated. When did I start looking at the floor instead of meeting people's eyes? When did my shoulders begin to curve inward, as if I'm trying to take up less space in the world? The eggs sizzle softly in the pan, and I can hear movement upstairs. Fallon's morning routine is as predictable as mine. Shower, blow-dry her hair, apply makeup that takes 30 minutes to perfect, then select an outfit from the walk-in closet that's larger than my entire room. She works from home now, something about consulting that seems to involve a lot of phone calls and very little actual work. I plate her breakfast just as her heels click against the stairs. She appears in the kitchen doorway at exactly 7 o'clock, dressed in a cream-colored blouse and tailored pants that cost more than I used to spend on groceries for a month. Her blonde hair is perfectly styled and her makeup is flawless. At 43, she's beautiful in that polished, untouchable way that money can buy. "Good morning," I say softly, setting her plate on the kitchen island where she always eats breakfast while scrolling through her phone. She doesn't look up. The coffee smells weak. I glance at the machine, knowing I made it exactly the way she likes it, the same way I've made it every morning for 5 years. I can make a fresh pot. No, it's fine. She cuts into her eggs with more force than necessary. I just don't understand why you can't remember something so simple. I busy myself at the sink, washing the pan I used to cook her breakfast. The hot water stings my hands, but it's better than the sting of her words. This is how our mornings always begin, with her dissatisfaction and my apologies for things that don't actually need apologizing for. Oh, before I forget, she says, not looking up from her phone. I transferred your allowance to the household account this morning. The utilities were higher than expected last month. My allowance. That's what she calls the $200 she gives me each month from my own Social Security check. The rest, along with the interest from Thomas's life insurance, goes toward household expenses. The mortgage on this house that I didn't choose to live in, the property taxes on land I don't own, the maintenance on a pool I'm not allowed to use because I might track dirt on the deck. Of course, I say, because what else can I say? Where would I go with no money and no car? She made sure of that early on, convincing me that I was too old to be driving safely after I scraped the side mirror on her BMW while backing out of the garage. She finishes her breakfast and carries her plate to the counter beside me, even though the dishwasher is 3 steps away. I have a conference call at 9, so try to keep the noise down when you're cleaning. And can you pick up my dry cleaning this afternoon? The blue dress needs to be ready for dinner tonight. Of course. Good. She pauses at the doorway. Oh, and Mother? Try to do something about your appearance today. Mrs. Henderson from next door mentioned that the help should look more presentable. The help. That's what I am now. The help in my own daughter's house, wearing my dead husband's anniversary gift like a servant's uniform. I watch her leave, her heels clicking back up the stairs to her home office, and I feel something crack inside my chest. Not break entirely, because I'm not sure there's enough of me left to break. Just another small fissure in the foundation of who I used to be. I finish washing the dishes and begin my daily routine of making this house spotless for a daughter who sees dirt that doesn't exist and finds fault with perfection. I vacuum the living room, dust the furniture, scrub the already clean bathrooms. I move through the motions like a robot, my body present but my mind somewhere else, somewhere safer. By lunchtime, I'm exhausted. Not from the work, but from the effort of staying invisible, of anticipating needs before they're spoken, of swallowing every instinct to defend myself. I make myself a peanut butter sandwich, the same lunch I've had every day for months because it's cheap and it doesn't require anything from Fallon's expensive grocery budget. I eat standing at the kitchen sink, looking out at the garden. Thomas and I used to tend together in our little house across town. The house Fallon sold for my own good after he died, because it was too much for someone my age to maintain. The money from that sale went toward the down payment on this mansion, she told me. An investment in our family's future. I never saw a penny of it. As I chew my sandwich, I think about Thomas and how he used to make me laugh until my sides ached, how he'd dance with me in our tiny kitchen while dinner cooked on the stove, how he'd tell me I was beautiful even when I was covered in flour and my hair was a mess. He would hate what I've become. He would hate seeing me reduced to this shadow of the woman he married, the woman who raised his daughter with love and sacrifice, only to have that love weaponized against me. But Thomas is gone, and I am here, and this is my reality now. I finish my sandwich and wrap the crust in a napkin. I'll save it for later, for dinner, because one sandwich is all I allow myself each day. I've learned to make do with less, to want less, to need less, until I've almost convinced myself that I am less. The afternoon stretches ahead of me like all the others. More cleaning, more invisible service, more swallowing of words that want to fight back. I pick up the laundry basket and head upstairs, my feet heavy on each step. I had become a ghost in my own story, watching life happen around me without ever being invited to participate. And the worst part was, I was starting to believe this was what I deserved. The knock at the front door comes just as I'm folding Fallon's expensive lingerie, each piece costing more than I used to spend on a week's worth of groceries. It's a soft, hesitant sound, barely audible over the hum of the washing machine in the basement. I set down the silk camisole I've been handling like it might shatter and make my way downstairs. Through the frosted glass panels beside the heavy oak door, I can see the outline of a person hunched against the November cold. Probably someone selling something. Or maybe one of those religious groups that canvass the neighborhood on weekday afternoons. When I open the door, my breath catches in my throat. The man standing on our pristine marble steps looks like he hasn't had a proper meal in weeks. His clothes are layers of mismatched fabric, held together more by hope than thread. His hair is long and unkempt, hidden partially under a knitted cap that's seen better decades. But it's his eyes that stop me cold. They're clear, intelligent, and filled with a kind of quiet desperation that I recognize too well. "I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am," he says, his voice hoarse but polite. "I haven't eaten in 2 days. I'm not asking for money, just maybe some food if you have anything you could spare." My heart clenches. I know what it's like to be hungry, to count every bite, to make a single sandwich stretch across an entire day. Behind me, I can hear Fallon's voice carrying from her office upstairs, speaking in that artificially sweet tone she uses with clients. "Wait here," I tell him, closing the door gently. I hurry to the kitchen and look around frantically. There's plenty of food in the refrigerator, but none of it belongs to me. The expensive cheese, the organic vegetables, the imported crackers, all bought with my money but designated for Fallon's consumption. I know better than to offer any of it without permission. Then I remember my sandwich. I prepared it this morning for my lunch, the same peanut butter and jelly sandwich I eat every day. It's wrapped in wax paper, sitting in the refrigerator beside Fallon's leftover Thai takeout that cost $43. My sandwich cost maybe 75 cents to make, but it's all I have. I take it from the refrigerator, my hands trembling slightly. This means I won't eat until tomorrow, but looking at that man's hollow cheeks through the door glass, I know I can't keep it for myself. I'm unwrapping the sandwich when I hear footsteps on the stairs. Fallon appears in the kitchen doorway, her phone pressed to her ear and freezes when she sees what I'm doing. "Let me call you back," she says into the phone, ending her call with a sharp tap. "What are you doing?" "There's a homeless man at the door," I explain, holding up the sandwich. "He's hungry." Fallon's expression hardens. "And you thought you'd just give away our food?" "It's my sandwich," I say quietly. "Made with bread I bought, peanut butter I bought, jelly I bought." She steps closer, her voice rising. "And you want to give it to some stranger who's probably just looking for an easy handout?" I glance toward the front door, knowing the man can probably hear every word. He said he hasn't eaten in 2 days. "And that's our problem how?" Fallon snatches the sandwich from my hands. "You're so naive, Mother. These people see a house like this and think they've hit the jackpot. Give him money once and he'll be back every week with his handout." I wasn't going to give him money. Food, money, what's the difference? It's enabling. She unwraps the sandwich and takes a deliberate bite. "Besides, you need to learn to think before you act. We have a reputation in this neighborhood." I watch her eat my only meal of the day, each bite a reminder of how powerless I've become. He looked so hungry. "That's called acting, Mother. It's what these people do." She finishes half the sandwich and tosses the rest in the garbage disposal. "Tell him we don't give handouts and close the door. And next time, don't answer it at all. That's what security systems are for." She walks away, leaving me standing in the kitchen with empty hands and a heavier heart. I return to the front door slowly, dreading what I have to do. When I open it, the man is still there, but he's stepped back from the threshold, as if he heard the entire exchange and doesn't want to cause any more trouble. "I'm sorry," I begin, but he holds up a weathered hand. "I heard," he says simply. "It's okay. I understand." But looking at his face, I don't think he understands at all. There's something in his eyes now, a kind of sadness that seems deeper than hunger or disappointment. He's studying my face with an intensity that makes me uncomfortable, as if he's seeing something there that I'm not aware of showing. "I wish I could help," I whisper, glancing back toward the kitchen where Fallon is probably listening. "You already did," he says, and I don't understand what he means. He turns to leave, but something makes me call after him. "Wait." I don't know what I'm doing, but I can't just watch him walk away. I reach into the pocket of my apron, feeling for the small packet of crackers I keep there for emergencies. It's not much, just a sleeve of saltines I saved from a restaurant weeks ago. But it's something. Here, I say, pressing the package into his hands. It's not much, but... He takes the crackers, and when our hands touch briefly, I notice his skin is softer than I expected. Not the rough, calloused hands of someone who's been living on the streets for long. "Thank you," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "You don't know what this means." As he walks down our circular driveway, I notice he doesn't shuffle like most homeless people I've seen. His gait is steady, purposeful, despite his obvious hunger. When he reaches the street, he turns back once and looks directly at me. Even from that distance, I can feel the weight of his gaze, as if he's memorizing my face. I close the door and lean against it, my heart pounding for reasons I can't explain. "I hope you're satisfied," Fallon says from behind me. I hadn't heard her approach. "You just encouraged a vagrant to think of this house as an easy target." I gave him crackers. "You gave him hope," she snaps, "and hope makes these people dangerous. They start thinking they deserve things they haven't earned." I turn to face her, and for a moment, something flickers inside me. Something that feels almost like anger. What have I done to deserve being spoken to like this? The question hangs between us, and I can see Fallon's surprise that I've actually challenged her. For a moment, I think she might soften, might remember that I'm her mother, not her employee. Instead, she laughs. It's a cold sound, sharp-edged and cruel. "You want to know what you've done?" she asks, stepping closer. "You've done nothing. That's the point. You've never accomplished anything on your own. Dad carried you for 30 years, and now I'm carrying you. You don't get to play Lady Bountiful with other people's resources when you've never earned a penny of your own." Each word lands like a physical blow. I open my mouth to defend myself, to remind her of all the jobs I worked to help put her through college, all the sacrifices Thomas and I made so she could have everything she wanted. But the words die in my throat. What's the point? She's rewritten our history so completely that my truth sounds like fiction even to my own ears. I just thought, that's your problem, Mother. You think too much about other people and not enough about reality. Reality is that you live here out of my generosity. Reality is that you eat food I provide, wear clothes I buy, sleep in a bed under a roof I pay for. Reality is that giving away what isn't yours to give makes you a thief, not a saint. The words echo in the marble foyer long after she's gone back upstairs. I stand there, absorbing the impact, feeling smaller and more insignificant than ever. I think about the homeless man, probably walking miles to find another door to knock on, another chance at compassion. I think about the gentle way he thanked me, the strange sadness in his eyes, the careful way he stepped back from our threshold to avoid causing trouble. Most of all, I think about what Fallon said, that I've never earned anything, never accomplished anything, never been anything more than a burden carried first by my husband and now by my daughter. As I climb the stairs to continue my cleaning routine, I wonder if she's right. Maybe I am just a useless old woman who should be grateful for the scraps of dignity she allows me to keep. But something about that man's eyes haunts me. The way he looked at me, like he saw something worth seeing, even when I couldn't see it myself. His eyes held recognition I couldn't understand, and I had no idea that encounter would change everything about the life I thought was already over. 3 days pass before I see him again. 3 days of Fallon's increasingly sharp comments about my bleeding heart and poor judgment. 3 days of me replaying that moment at the door, wondering if I did the right thing or if I'm really as foolish as my daughter believes. I'm in the garden when he appears, pulling weeds from the flower beds that Fallon insists must be magazine perfect at all times. The November air is crisp, and my arthritis makes my joints ache. but I prefer working outside to being trapped in that house with its suffocating silence and unspoken rules. Excuse me, ma'am. I look up to see the same man from 3 days ago, but something about him seems different. He's still wearing layered, worn clothing, but he's standing straighter somehow. His face isn't as gaunt, and there's a clarity in his eyes that wasn't there before. You came back, I say, struggling to my feet and brushing dirt from my knees. I wanted to thank you properly for the crackers, he says, and to return something. He holds out his hand, and in his palm is a small wallet. Expensive-looking leather, the kind that Fallon would carry. I found this in your driveway after I left the other day. Must have fallen out of someone's purse. I take the wallet and immediately recognize it as Fallon's spare, the one she keeps in her car for emergencies. It contains several credit cards and at least $300 in cash. Oh my goodness, I breathe. My daughter must have dropped this. She would have been frantic looking for it. I figured it was important, he says simply. Thought about just putting it in your mailbox, but cash and credit cards. Seemed better to hand it over personally. I stare at him, amazed. Here's a man who claimed he hadn't eaten in 2 days, holding a wallet full of cash, and his first instinct was to return it. The contrast between his integrity and Fallon's assumptions about his kind makes my chest tight with shame. Please, I say, let me get you something. A proper meal, at least, after what you've done. That's kind of you, but I'm fine now. He pauses, studying my face with that same intense attention from before. Can I ask you something? I nod. The other day when you gave me those crackers, why did you do it? After what your daughter said, after she made it clear you'd get in trouble for it. The question catches me off guard. I fumble for an answer, not sure how to explain the instinct that drove me to reach into my pocket to offer the little I had. I suppose I know what it's like to be hungry, I admit quietly. His expression shifts, becomes somehow gentler and sadder at the same time. You know what it's like to be hungry? Living in a house like this? I glance back at the mansion, with its perfect landscaping and expensive cars in the driveway, and realize how my words must sound. It's complicated, I say. I imagine it is. He's quiet for a moment, then reaches into his pocket. I have something for you too. What he pulls out makes my breath catch. It's a business card, but not the kind I expected. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, the kind that costs more per card than some people spend on lunch. I read the name printed there and feel the world shift beneath my feet. Heath Morrison, President and CEO, Morrison Foundation. I don't understand, I whisper. The man in front of me reaches up and slowly removes the knitted cap he's been wearing. Underneath, his hair is shorter than it appeared, neatly trimmed and graying at the temples. He pulls off what I now realize is a wig, revealing silver hair that's obviously styled by expensive professionals. My name is Heath Morrison, he says, his voice different now, cultured and confident. I run a foundation that provides assistance to people in need, but more than that, I test the character of people who have the means to help. I stagger backward, nearly tripping over the garden hose. You were testing me? Not testing. Observing. He straightens to his full height, and I can see now that he's probably in his early 60s, well-built despite the loose clothing meant to disguise his frame. I've been researching this neighborhood for weeks, looking for people who have both the resources and the character to partner with our foundation. I expected to find entitled people who would slam doors in my face or call security. And instead I found you. His eyes are kind but serious. A woman living in a $1 million house who gave a stranger her only meal, even after being told not to. A woman who risked punishment to show compassion. My head is spinning. But you said you hadn't eaten in 2 days. I lied about that part, he admits. But everything else? The gratitude, the recognition of what you sacrificed? That was real. I look down at the business card, trying to process what's happening. The Morrison Foundation. I've heard of it, seen their work featured in the news. They're one of the largest charitable organizations in New England, with an annual budget of millions of dollars. I still don't understand why you're telling me this. Heath Morrison looks back at the house, his expression darkening slightly. Because I also observed what happened after I left. I heard how your daughter spoke to you, how she dismissed your kindness as stupidity. I saw her throw away your sandwich and eat it herself. Heat floods my cheeks. You heard that? The acoustics in this neighborhood are excellent, he says dryly. And your daughter has a voice that carries. I want to defend Fallon, to explain that she's protective, that she worries about my safety. But the words won't come because we both know they'd be lies. She's not wrong about everything, I say instead. I don't have resources of my own. I can't be a partner to anyone's foundation. Heath Morrison smiles, and it transforms his entire face. Mrs. Grant, you just proved that resources aren't always measured in dollars. What I'm about to offer you might sound impossible, but I want you to hear me out. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out an envelope. Not the thin, cheap kind that bills come in, but heavy paper stock, the kind used for important documents. Inside this envelope is a job offer, he says simply. The Morrison Foundation is looking for someone to oversee our community outreach program. Someone who understands what it means to need help and what it costs to offer it. I stare at the envelope like it might explode. I'm 65 years old. I don't have experience in nonprofit work. You have experience in compassion. You have experience in sacrifice. You have experience in recognizing human dignity, even when others can't see it. He holds out the envelope. The position comes with a salary of $60,000 annually, full health benefits, and a housing allowance. $60,000. More money than I've seen in my own hands since Thomas died. More money than Fallon allows me to access in an entire year. I can't, I whisper. Why not? Because I struggle to find words for the cage that's been built around me so gradually I didn't notice the bars until they were locked. Because I don't have anywhere to live. Because I don't have a car. Because my daughter manages my finances, and she'd never— Mrs. Grant. His voice is gentle but firm. You're not your daughter's property. You're a grown woman who has every right to make her own decisions about her life. I want to believe him, but the weight of 5 years of being told I'm incapable, incompetent, and dependent presses down on me like a physical force. She'll be furious, I say. Will she? Or will she be afraid? The question stops me cold. Afraid of what? Of losing control. Of having to take responsibility for her own life instead of using yours as a safety net. Heath Morrison's eyes are knowing, and I realize he's seen this dynamic before. Mrs. Grant, when was the last time you made a decision about your own life? I try to remember and come up empty. When to get up, what to wear, what to eat, where to go, when to speak. Every aspect of my existence has been dictated by someone else for so long that I've forgotten what it feels like to choose. I need time to think, I say finally. Of course. He hands me the envelope, and when our hands touch again, I notice that his are warm, steady, confident. But while you're thinking, consider this. You showed kindness to a stranger when it cost you something. That's not common. That's not ordinary. That's the kind of character we build foundations on. He starts to walk away, then turns back. Mrs. Grant, the offer expires in 1 week. Not because I don't want to give you time, but because opportunities like this don't wait forever. I watch him walk down the driveway, and this time his stride is different. Purposeful, confident, the walk of a man who owns companies and changes lives. At the street, he climbs into a black sedan that I swear wasn't there moments ago. I stand in the garden, clutching the envelope and business card, feeling like I've just been hit by lightning. Everything I thought I knew about my situation was wrong. The homeless man was a millionaire. My act of foolish compassion was actually a demonstration of character, and somewhere in this envelope is a key to a door I didn't even know existed. The front door of the house opens, and Fallon's voice cuts across the yard. "Mother, what are you doing out there? And who was that man you were talking to?" I slipped the envelope and business card into my apron pocket, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Just someone returning your wallet," I call back. "The spare one from your car." But as I walk toward the house, I can feel the weight of that envelope against my hip like a secret heartbeat. And for the first time in 5 years, I wonder if there might be another way to live. I wait until Fallon leaves for her book club meeting that evening before I dare to open the envelope. My hands shake as I break the heavy wax seal, and I have to sit down on my narrow bed to steady myself. The job offer is more detailed than I expected, typed on official letterhead that feels substantial between my fingers. Community Outreach Coordinator, Morrison Foundation. Salary, $60,000 annually. Benefits include health insurance, dental coverage, vision care, and a retirement contribution plan. Housing allowance, $1,200 monthly, $1,200 just for housing. That's almost as much as my entire Social Security check. But it's the handwritten note attached to the formal offer that makes my breath catch. Mrs. Grant, there's something else you need to know about why I approached you specifically. It has to do with your late husband, Thomas. If you're willing to take the job, I'll explain everything. You deserve to know the truth about the man you married and the legacy he left behind. H.M. Thomas. My heart pounds as I read the words again. What could Heath Morrison possibly know about Thomas that I don't know myself? We were married for 39 years. I thought I knew everything about the man who shared my bed, my dreams, my life. I fold the papers carefully and slide them back into the envelope, hiding it beneath the stack of old photographs I keep in my nightstand drawer. Photos of Thomas and me when we were young and poor and happy. Photos of Fallon as a baby, when she still looked at me like I was her whole world. Sleep doesn't come easily that night. I lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what secrets Thomas might have kept from me, what connection he could possibly have to a man like Heath Morrison. The next morning, Fallon is in an unusually good mood. She actually says please when asking me to iron her blouse, and she doesn't criticize my coffee. It makes me nervous. "I have some exciting news," she announces over breakfast. "Marcus Henderson called last night." Marcus Henderson. The name is familiar, but I can't place it. "From the Henderson Group," she continues, as if that clarifies everything. "They're interested in having me consult on their new marketing campaign. It could be a very lucrative contract." "That's wonderful, dear." "It is, isn't it?" She takes a delicate sip of her coffee. "Of course, I'll need to look the part. Success breeds success and all that. I'm thinking of redecorating the living room, maybe upgrading some of the furniture." My stomach tightens. More expenses, which means less chance of ever seeing any of my own money. "Will that be expensive?" I ask carefully. "Investment, Mother. Not expense. Investment." She waves her hand dismissively. "Besides, it's not like we have a choice. You want me to succeed, don't you? You want our family to continue thriving?" Our family, as if I'm truly part of it, rather than just the hired help who happens to share DNA. "Of course I want you to succeed." "Good, because I'm going to need you to be extra careful with the household budget for the next few months. No unnecessary purchases, no wasteful spending." She fixes me with a sharp look. "And absolutely no giving away food to strangers. We can't afford to be charitable right now." I nod and continue washing dishes, but my mind is spinning. If Fallon is planning to spend more money on redecorating, she'll tighten her control over my finances even further. The $200 monthly allowance might disappear entirely. The envelope hidden in my nightstand suddenly feels like it's burning through the walls. After Fallon leaves for her meeting with a potential client, I find myself alone in the house with my thoughts and my fears. I pull out the envelope again, reading Heath Morrison's note for the dozenth time. You deserve to know the truth about the man you married and the legacy he left behind. What legacy? Thomas left behind some life insurance money and our small house, both of which Fallon now controls. He left behind memories of a gentle man who worked hard, loved deeply, and never hurt anyone intentionally. What else could there be? I'm still pondering this when the doorbell rings. Through the frosted glass, I can see a familiar silhouette, and my heart speeds up. Heath Morrison stands on the porch, but this time he's dressed in an expensive suit, his silver hair perfectly styled. He looks like what he is, a successful businessman worth millions of dollars. The transformation from homeless vagrant to corporate executive is so complete it takes my breath away. Mrs. Grant, he says when I open the door. I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I wanted to follow up on our conversation yesterday. My daughter isn't home. I know. I waited for her to leave. His smile is kind but knowing. I thought we might speak more freely without an audience. I hesitate, then step aside to let him enter. He looks around the marble foyer, taking in the expensive furnishings and perfect decor, but his expression isn't impressed. It's more like he's cataloging details, making assessments. Beautiful home, he says neutrally. Thank you. I'm not sure what else to say. It's not really my home, but I can't bring myself to explain that to a stranger. Have you had a chance to review the job offer? Yes. My voice comes out smaller than I intended, but I have questions. Of course you do. Shall we sit? I lead him to the living room, choosing the chairs rather than the couch because it feels less intimate, less presumptuous. He settles into Thomas's old reading chair, the one Fallon moved from our original house, and something about seeing him there makes my chest ache. You mentioned Thomas, I begin. My late husband. I don't understand what he could possibly have to do with your foundation. Heath Morrison leans forward, his expression becoming more serious. Mrs. Grant, what did your husband tell you about his work? He was a maintenance supervisor at Hartwell Manufacturing. He worked there for 23 years before he retired. That's all he told you? I frown, sensing there's more to this question than I understand. What else would there be? It wasn't glamorous work, but it was steady. It paid the bills and put Fallon through college. Heath nods slowly. Thomas was indeed a maintenance supervisor, but what he didn't tell you was that in 1997, he prevented what could have been a catastrophic industrial accident. My heart stops. What? There was a chemical leak in one of the processing plants. A small one at first, but Thomas recognized the signs of what could become a major explosion. Instead of evacuating himself, he stayed behind to manually shut down the systems and contain the leak. I stare at him, trying to process this information. Thomas never mentioned anything like that. He wouldn't have. According to the incident report, he refused all publicity, all recognition. He just did what needed to be done and went back to work the next day like nothing had happened. But how do you know about this? Heath Morrison's expression grows softer, more personal. Because I was the plant manager that day, Mrs. Grant. I was 28 years old, fresh out of business school, completely unprepared for an emergency of that magnitude. Your husband saved not just the plant, but my career, my future, possibly my life. The world seems to tilt around me. You knew Thomas? I knew him, I worked with him, and I owed him a debt I never got the chance to repay. His voice becomes thick with emotion. Thomas Grant was the most decent man I ever met. He taught me more about leadership and character in one afternoon than 4 years of Harvard Business School ever did. I feel tears starting in my eyes. Why didn't he ever tell me? Because that's who he was. He didn't do good things for recognition or reward. He did them because they were right. Heath reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded piece of paper. This is a copy of the commendation letter the company wrote. Thomas refused to accept it publicly, so they filed it away. I kept a copy all these years. With trembling hands, I unfold the paper and read the official letterhead of Hartwell Manufacturing. The letter describes Thomas's extraordinary courage and quick thinking that prevented potential loss of life and millions of dollars in property damage. It recommends him for the company's highest civilian honor. He never got this? He refused it, said he was just doing his job. Heath's voice is gentle. Mrs. Grant, I've spent the last 26 years building a foundation dedicated to helping people in need. Every dollar I've earned, every life we've touched, every family we've helped. It all traces back to that day when your husband showed me what real character looks like. I'm crying now, tears sliding down my cheeks as I try to reconcile this heroic stranger with the quiet man who used to bring me coffee in bed every morning. When I heard he had passed away, I tried to find you, Heath continues. I wanted to tell you what he meant to me, what he meant to the world. But your daughter had moved you here, and all the contact information I had was outdated. So you tested me instead. I observed you, and what I saw was Thomas Grant's wife, showing the same quiet courage, the same instinctive compassion that he showed me all those years ago. He leans forward, his eyes intense. Mrs. Grant, I'm not offering you a job out of charity or obligation. I'm offering it because you have exactly the kind of character our foundation needs. The same character that made your husband a hero. I fold the letter carefully, my hand still shaking. I still don't understand why he never told me about this. Because heroes rarely recognize themselves as such. They just see problems that need solving and do what they can. Heath pauses. But there's something else, Mrs. Grant. Something that might help you understand why this job offer is so important. What? Thomas tried to contact me about 6 months before he died. He left several messages at my office, said he needed to discuss something important about his family's future. But I was traveling extensively that quarter, and by the time I got his messages and called back, he had already passed away. My heart clenches. He was trying to reach you? I believe he was worried about what would happen to you after he was gone. I think he wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of, but he ran out of time. The words hit me like a physical blow. Thomas had been trying to secure my future, trying to make sure I wouldn't end up trapped and dependent. He had known somehow that I would need help, and he had reached out to the one person he trusted to provide it. So, this job offer is what Thomas would have wanted for you. Independence, dignity, the chance to use your gifts to help others. Heath's voice is firm. Mrs. Grant, your husband saved my life. Let me honor that by offering you the chance to save your own. I sit in silence, holding the commendation letter, feeling the weight of 26 years of gratitude and grief. Thomas had been a hero, and I had never known. He had tried to protect my future, and I had never known that either. But now I know, and Heath Morrison is offering me the key to the life Thomas wanted me to have. My husband's secret could finally set me free, if I have the courage to take it. I spend 3 sleepless nights thinking about Heath Morrison's offer, about Thomas's hidden heroism, about the life I could have if I found the courage to reach for it. Each morning, I wake up in my narrow bed in what used to be the servants' quarters, and each morning, I put on the same worn apron and shuffle downstairs to begin another day of invisible service. But something has changed inside me. The knowledge that Thomas tried to secure my future, that he saw value in me worth protecting, burns like a small flame in my chest. It's been so long since anyone believed I was capable of more than cleaning and cooking and staying quiet, that I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to matter. On Thursday evening, Fallon announces that Marcus Henderson has officially hired her for the marketing campaign, and she's celebrating by ordering expensive sushi delivered from downtown. She eats it at the kitchen island while I clean around her, describing her vision for redecorating the living room. I'm thinking of replacing all the furniture, she says, waving a piece of tuna sashimi for emphasis. Something more modern, more sophisticated. The current stuff is too dated. Too much like something an old person would choose. I pause in my wiping of the already clean counters. The furniture she's dismissing includes Thomas's reading chair, the coffee table we bought together for our first apartment, the bookshelf where I keep my few remaining treasures. What would happen to the old furniture? I ask carefully. Donate it, I suppose. Or have it hauled away. I haven't decided yet. She shrugs as if we're discussing trash, not the physical remnants of my life with Thomas. The important thing is creating the right image for potential clients. I feel something crack inside my chest, but it's not the familiar fracture of defeat. This time, it's the sound of a shell breaking open, of something trapped finally finding room to breathe. Fallon, I say, setting down my cleaning cloth. We need to talk. She glances up from her phone, eyebrows raised. About what? About my life, about my future. She lets out a little laugh, the kind you'd give a child who just announced they want to be a unicorn when they grow up. Mother, we've talked about this. Your future is secure. You have everything you need here. Do I? Do I really? Something in my tone must penetrate her dismissive mood, because she puts down her chopsticks and looks at me more closely. What's gotten into you? I've been offered a job. The words hang between us like a challenge thrown down. Fallon's expression shifts through confusion, disbelief, and finally settles on something that looks almost like fear. A job? What kind of job? Where? The Morrison Foundation, Community Outreach Coordinator. I stand straighter, my voice growing stronger with each word. $60,000 a year, full benefits, housing allowance. Fallon stares at me for a long moment, then starts laughing. Not the polite social laugh she uses with clients, but something harsh and desperate. The Morrison Foundation? Mother, do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds? They're one of the most prestigious charitable organizations in New England. They don't hire 65-year-old women with no experience. They hired me. No, they didn't. Someone is playing a joke on you or trying to scam you or... She stops mid-sentence, her expression shifting. Wait. This is about that homeless man, isn't it? The one you gave food to. I meet her gaze steadily. Yes. I knew it. I knew he was trouble. She stands up abruptly, beginning to pace. He's obviously running some kind of con, targeting vulnerable elderly people. Mother, you can't be this gullible. Heath Morrison isn't running a con, Fallon. He's the president and CEO of the foundation, and he knew your father. That stops her cold. What? Thomas saved his life 26 years ago. Heath has been looking for me since Thomas died, trying to honor a debt he feels he owes our family. I can see Fallon's mind racing, trying to find holes in the story, ways to discredit what I'm telling her. Even if that's true, which I doubt, you can't seriously be considering this. You have no experience in nonprofit work. You'd be lost, overwhelmed, probably fired within a month. Maybe. But that would be my choice to make. Your choice? Her voice rises sharply. Mother, you haven't made a competent choice about anything in 5 years. Your judgment is clearly compromised. This proves it. The words are meant to wound, to remind me of my place, to shrink me back down to the manageable size she requires. But instead of cowering, I feel that small flame in my chest grow brighter. You're right, I say quietly. I haven't made choices in 5 years, because you haven't let me. I haven't let you? I've protected you from making mistakes that would hurt both of us. No, Fallon, you've controlled me because it's convenient. Because having me here means you don't have to pay for housekeeping or cooking or home maintenance. Because you can use my Social Security and Thomas's life insurance to fund your lifestyle while giving me an allowance like I'm a child. Her face flushes red. How dare you, after everything I've done for you, everything I've sacrificed? What have you sacrificed? The question comes out sharper than I intended, but I don't apologize. What exactly have you given up by having me here? She sputters for a moment, clearly not expecting the challenge. I've given up my privacy, my independence. I've taken on the responsibility of caring for you when I should be focused on building my career. Caring for me? When have you cared for me, Fallon? When have you asked how I'm feeling, what I need, what I want? When have you treated me like your mother instead of your employee? That's not fair, isn't it? I move closer to her, and for once, I'm not the one stepping back. Tell me, when was the last time you asked me about my day? When was the last time you thanked me for anything I do around here? When was the last time you said you loved me without following it with a request for something? She opens her mouth, then closes it again. The silence stretches between us, filled with 5 years of unspoken resentments and unacknowledged hurts. This is exactly what I mean, she says finally. You're being emotional, irrational. You're proving that you need guidance, not independence. No, Fallon, I'm proving that I still have a voice, even after you've tried so hard to silence it. I turn toward the stairs, but her next words stop me cold. If you take this job, don't expect to come crawling back here when it doesn't work out. I turn around slowly, studying her face. There's panic there, beneath the anger and indignation. Real fear. Is that a threat? It's reality. You walk out on this family, on everything I've done for you, and you're on your own. Completely. For a moment, the old fear rises in my throat. The terror of being alone, homeless, destitute. But then I remember Heath Morrison's words, Thomas's hidden heroism, the job offer that represents not just employment, but dignity restored. You're right, I say calmly. I would be on my own. For the first time in 5 years, I would be responsible for my own decisions, my own mistakes, my own successes. You'll fail. Maybe. But at least I'll fail as myself, not as some shadow of who you think I should be. I head for the stairs again, but this time she doesn't try to stop me with words. Instead, she follows me, her heels clicking against the marble like angry exclamation points. Mother, wait. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. Let's discuss this rationally tomorrow, when you've had time to calm down. I pause on the bottom step, gripping the banister. I've been calm for 5 years, Fallon. I've been quiet and grateful and accommodating. I've made myself so small that sometimes I forget I exist at all. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time I laughed out loud? When was the last time I sang in the shower or danced in the kitchen or did anything that made noise, that took up space, that reminded the world that Rosalind Grant is still here? She doesn't answer, and in her silence, I hear the truth we've both been avoiding. I'm taking the job, Fallon. You can't. I can, and I will. I turn to face her one last time. I'll be gone by the weekend. Where will you go? You don't have a car. You don't have money. Mr. Morrison is providing temporary housing until I find a permanent place, and I do have money. My Social Security, Thomas's life insurance benefits, the proceeds from our house sale. All of it legally mine, all of it currently controlled by you. Her face goes pale. You can't just take that money. It's invested. It's tied up in your mortgage, in your lifestyle, in your comfort. I nod. I know. But it's still mine, Fallon. And I'm taking it back. For the first time in our entire conversation, she looks truly frightened. Please don't do this, she whispers. Please don't leave me. The words might have broken my heart a week ago. They might have sent me rushing to comfort her, to reassure her that I would never abandon my own daughter. But now I hear what she's really saying. Please don't stop funding my life. I'm not leaving you, Fallon. I'm finally choosing me. I climb the stairs to my small room, feeling lighter with each step. Behind me, I can hear her starting to cry, but they're not tears of grief or regret. They're tears of frustration, of lost control, of a plan that's falling apart. In my room, I pull out the envelope containing Heath Morrison's job offer and read it once more. Tomorrow, I'll call him and accept. Tomorrow, I'll begin the process of reclaiming my life. For the first time in 5 years, the decision was mine alone, and it felt like coming back to life. 6 months later, I wake up in my own bed, in my own apartment, to the sound of my own alarm clock. Not because someone else expects breakfast at 7 sharp, but because I choose to start my day early. The morning light filters through curtains I selected myself, in a color I love. Soft lavender, like the sachets I used to keep hidden in my old room. My apartment isn't large, but it's mine. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen just big enough for one person who enjoys cooking again, and a living room where I can read Thomas's books without fear of someone telling me I'm taking up too much space. The Morrison Foundation's housing allowance covers the rent completely, leaving my salary free for things I'd forgotten I could want: fresh flowers for the kitchen table, good coffee beans, books I choose for myself. I make my coffee slowly, savoring the ritual of it. No one is waiting impatiently downstairs. No one will criticize the strength or temperature. If I want to add a splash of vanilla cream and real sugar instead of artificial sweetener, I can. These small freedoms still surprise me sometimes. My reflection in the kitchen window shows a different woman than the one who used to shuffle through that marble mansion in worn slippers and a faded apron. My hair is shorter now, styled at a real salon instead of trimmed with kitchen scissors. I'm wearing a soft blue sweater that Heath helped me pick out during one of our shopping trips, when he patiently guided me through the terrifying experience of buying clothes for a life I was still learning to claim. The work has been everything he promised and more challenging than I expected. Community outreach means visiting shelters, coordinating with social services, connecting people in crisis with resources that can help them rebuild their lives. It means seeing poverty and desperation up close, but also witnessing the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Yesterday, I helped a young mother named Sarah find emergency housing after her abusive boyfriend kicked her and her 2 children out of their apartment. The fear in her eyes reminded me of something I recognized but had never named in myself: the terror of being completely dependent on someone else's mercy. "I don't know how to do this alone," she had whispered, clutching her sleeping baby while her 4-year-old son clung to her leg. "You're not alone," I told her, and meant it. There are people who want to help, who understand what you're going through. You just need to know where to find them. As I helped her fill out the paperwork for emergency assistance, I realized I was doing more than my job. I was living out the lesson Thomas had taught Heath Morrison 26 years ago, that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply show up when someone needs help. The phone rings as I'm finishing my breakfast, and I smile when I see Heath's name on the caller ID. "Good morning," I answer. "Good morning, Rosalind. I hope I'm not calling too early." I glance at the clock. 7:45. 6 months ago, I would have been halfway through my morning cleaning routine by now, invisible and silent in someone else's house. Not too early at all. What can I do for you? Actually, I was hoping you might join me for lunch today. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. My stomach tightens slightly. In the past, unexpected requests for meetings usually meant criticism, correction, or additional unpaid responsibilities. But Heath has never been anything but straightforward with me. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "More than all right. I'll explain when I see you." We arranged to meet at a small cafe near the foundation offices, the kind of place where they know your order after you've been there twice. It's become one of my favorite spots, partly because the waitress, Maria, reminds me of myself at her age, working hard, doing her best, deserving of respect and kindness. I arrive a few minutes early and choose a table by the window. The autumn light is golden, and I watch people walking past on their way to jobs and appointments and lives that belong to them. 6 months ago, I had no idea what it felt like to be one of those people. Heath arrives precisely on time, as always, and settles into the chair across from me with a smile that seems particularly bright today. "You look well," he says, and I can hear the genuine warmth in his voice. Over the months, our relationship has evolved from professional courtesy to something that feels like friendship. He's never made me feel like a charity case or a debt being paid. He treats me like a colleague, a partner in the Foundation's work. I feel well, I reply, and realize it's true. Better than I have in years. I can see it. There's something different about you today. I consider this. I helped a young mother yesterday, Sarah. She reminded me of myself, actually. Trapped, dependent, afraid to hope for anything better. I pause, choosing my words carefully. I realized that 6 months ago I could barely help myself. Now I'm in a position to help other people change their lives. Heath nods, his expression thoughtful. That's actually related to what I wanted to discuss with you. Maria appears to take our orders, and I notice Heath waits until she's gone before continuing. Whatever this is about, it's important. Rosalind, I've been watching your work these past 6 months. The way you connect with clients, the way you handle crisis situations, the way you've grown into this role. He leans forward slightly. I have a proposition for you. My pulse quickens. What kind of proposition? The Foundation Board has approved funding for a new program. We want to create a safe house specifically for women over 50 who find themselves displaced from their homes due to family exploitation or abuse. He pauses, letting the words sink in. We need someone to run it, someone who understands what it's like to be in that position. I stare at him, processing what he's suggesting. You want me to run a safe house? I want you to create something that could have existed for you 6 months ago. A place where women like Sarah's mother, like yourself, can find not just temporary shelter, but a path to genuine independence. The magnitude of what he's describing takes my breath away. Heath, I don't have experience running programs like that. I've only been doing this job for 6 months. And in those 6 months, you've shown more insight and compassion than people who've been in this field for decades. You understand these women because you've been these women. His voice becomes more passionate. Rosalind, there are thousands of women your age trapped in situations like the one you escaped. They need someone who can look them in the eye and say, I've been where you are, and there is another way. I think about Sarah, about the fear in her eyes that I recognize so clearly. I think about all the women like her and like me, who believe they have no choices because they've been told for so long that they're powerless. What would this involve exactly? Hiring and training staff, developing intake procedures, creating support programs. We're talking about a facility that could house up to 20 women at a time, with the goal of helping each one transition to independent living within 6 to 12 months. And you think I could do this? Heath's smile is gentle but confident. I think Thomas Grant's wife could do anything she set her mind to. The reference to Thomas hits me like a warm embrace. Sometimes I still wake up forgetting he's gone, still reach for his hand in the middle of the night. But increasingly, I feel his presence not as an absence, but as a foundation, the solid ground of love and respect that made everything else possible. There would be a substantial salary increase, Heath continues. Program director level, around $85,000 annually, plus full administrative support and a dedicated budget. $85,000. More money than I ever imagined having, certainly more than I need for my simple life. But it's not about the money, and Heath knows that. When would this start? The board approved the funding yesterday. If you accept, we could begin planning immediately and open the facility within 6 months. I look out the window at the people passing by, thinking about the invisible women among them, the ones who've made themselves so small they've nearly disappeared, the ones who believe they have no value beyond their service to others. I'd like to name it after Thomas, I say suddenly. Heath's eyes brighten. The Thomas Grant Center for New Beginnings? Something like that. I feel tears starting, but they're not tears of sadness. They're tears of gratitude, of possibility, of a future I never dared to imagine. He would have loved this, wouldn't he? Knowing that his sacrifice all those years ago led to something that could help so many people. He would have been proud of you, Heath says quietly. just like I am. I wipe my eyes and take a deep breath. 6 months ago, I was a ghost in someone else's house, invisible and voiceless. Now I'm being offered the chance to create something meaningful, something that could change lives. Yes, I say, my voice stronger than I've ever heard it. Yes, I'll do it. Heath reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. Welcome to the next chapter of your life, Director Grant. Director Grant. I roll the title around in my mind, tasting its weight and possibility. Rosalind Grant, Program Director. Rosalind Grant, creator of New Beginnings. Rosalind Grant, woman who chose herself and discovered she was worth choosing. That evening, I sit in my favorite chair with a cup of tea and Thomas's old photo album, looking through pictures of our life together. In one photo, we're young and broke and radiantly happy, standing in front of our first apartment with matching grins. In another, we're older, grayer, but still holding hands like teenagers. I run my finger over Thomas's face in the most recent photo, taken just months before he died. He's wearing his favorite sweater, the one I donated to charity because it hurt too much to keep. Now I wish I'd held on to it, but I understand why I couldn't at the time. I wasn't ready to be the keeper of memories. I was too busy trying to survive each day. I did it, Thomas. I whisper to the photograph. I found my way back to myself. I close the album and look around my apartment, my sanctuary, my proof that it's never too late to start over. Tomorrow I'll begin planning the Thomas Grant Center, creating a place where other women can discover what I've learned. That dignity isn't something that can be taken from you unless you give it away, that it's never too late to choose yourself, that sometimes the most radical act is simply refusing to disappear. My phone buzzes with a text message. For a moment, my heart races, thinking it might be Fallon. We haven't spoken since the day I left. I know from mutual acquaintances that she had to sell the house when she couldn't afford the mortgage payments without my Social Security income. She moved into a small condo and took a full-time job with benefits, things she could have done years ago if she hadn't been so comfortable living off my labor and my money. But the message isn't from Fallon. It's from Sarah, the young mother I helped yesterday. Thank you for everything. My kids and I are safe tonight because of you. You saved our lives. I set the phone down and smile. This is what it feels like to matter, to have impact, to use your voice for something more than asking permission to exist. I finally understood what it meant to live, rather than merely survive. And tomorrow, I would help other women learn the same lesson. The weight of forced gratitude was gone, replaced by the lightness of freely chosen purpose. I was 65 years old, and my life was just beginning. Now I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below. And meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other stories that are channel favorites, and they will definitely surprise you. Thank you for watching until here.